call to order the Monday, December 2nd meeting of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners. At 6 p.m. we had a work session with an update from staff on the Moyock Small Area Plan. At this time for our invocation, I'd like to ask Reverend Tom Meyer from Poplar Branch Baptist Church to come forward. Please stand. And at the conclusion, we were supposed to have the Boy Scouts. Are they here?
Yes.
They will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance at a conclusion.
Father, at the end of a long day, there's still more work to do. Tonight, Lord, we ask for unity. We ask for wisdom and guidance in the decisions that are made. We ask for unity in our communities as we listen to the work that needs to be done. And Father, at the end of this agenda, we ask for a safe ride home for all those who have attended tonight. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Meyer, I believe this is the first time you've been here. Yes, sir. And we'd like to welcome you and thank you for coming out tonight. At this time, we have the Boy Scout Troop 169 that will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you gentlemen be kind enough to introduce yourself to everyone?
I'm Scoutmaster Robert Ball from 169 in Moyock.
Nick McKenzie from Troop 169 in Moyock.
And I'm Joshua Fulford from Troop 169 in Moyock.
Thank you all very much for leading us tonight. This time, the next item is election of chairman. I'll turn the meeting over to the county manager, who will handle that.
Thank you. By general statutes, the first meeting of December, Board of Commissioners are required to organize or reorganize themselves, and that requires the appointment of a new chairman or a chairman. And with that said, I'll open the floor for nominations for chairman.
Mr. Scanlon, I'd like to nominate Paul O'Neill as chairman of the Board of Commissioners for 2014.
I'll second that motion.
Hearing no other nominations, all in favor of Paul O'Neill for chairman, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Congratulations, Mr. O'Neill. You've got it another year, and I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you. This time it will be election of vice chairman. I'll open the floor for nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Paul Martin as vice chairman of the Board of Commissioners for 2014.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. We have any other nominations? Hearing none, I'm going to close the nominations and ask all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
And,
thanks to my fellow commissioners.
Yeah, thanks to the board. Look forward to another year and a great group of people to work with. This time we'll move for the approval of agenda. I would ask under new business, item B1, that we would continue the appointments to the Economic Development Advisory Board to a future meeting, and that would be the only change.
The Board of Adjustments also.
Board of Adjustments, is that yours? And the Board of Adjustments?
Yeah, Kevin and I both.
Okay. So appointment to ED Board and Board of Adjustments continue to a future meeting, and those are two changes in the agenda.
I move for approval.
We have a motion for approval. Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. This time is public comment. This time is the public's opportunity to address the Board of Commissioners about issues important to them. And we have 3 people signed up. Mr. McCree will keep the time, and I ask that you give your name and address or organization you're representing at the time you speak. Thank you. First one is Miss Mary Etheridge.
My name is Mary Etheridge, and I live at 846 Shawborough Road in Shawborough. With Christmas fast approaching, I would like to tell the citizens of Currituck County what the commissioners gave the people of Shawborough 2 years ago. On December the 5th, 2011, the commissioners gave us a junkyard. I'm sure no one would want to be given a junkyard, and rest assured, if we could re-gift it, the junkyard would have ended up within 600 feet of your home. But it belongs to the Shawboro community because Commissioner O'Neill, Petrey, Idlett, and Gilbert, and 2 other commissioners who are no longer serving on the board, thought a junkyard would improve a neighborhood. Folks, not one entity thought a junkyard would improve a neighborhood. Shawboro got it anyway. So my family, with the support of our neighbors, filed an appeal with the Currituck Superior Court, and on April the 25th, 2013, the courts ruled in our favor. Yes, because of no fault of our own, the county commissioners have cost us thousands of dollars, so we decided to appeal for attorney fees or ask the county to reach an agreement with us. They would not reach any type of agreement with us, so on May the 2nd, 2013, we filed an appeal for attorney fee. And true to their indication of intent, they filed an appeal on May the 23rd, 2013, to try to overturn the judge's ruling on the illegal spot zoning. The county's appeal was filed knowing that the applicant in February of this year had withdrawn his application, knowing that the applicant did not own the 1.1 acres of land, and knowing that the landowner has never shown any interest whatsoever in rezoning. We have all heard the expression, the gift that keeps on giving. Well, this gift keeps on costing, not only costing my family, but the taxpayers of Currituck County. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why. But if our appeal and my speaking can help to prevent this from happening to just one citizen in Currituck County, it will be money well spent, because no one should ever have to fight their own county government to protect their property rights. And yes, this can happen to you or anyone in the county. All the commissioners have to do is disregard their professional staff, their attorney, and everyone's recommendation, and you too could be living next door to a junkyard. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Barbara Snowden and Ann Bell. I guess you're going solo tonight.
I think so.
Okay.
My name is Barbara Snowden, and I live at 154 Courthouse Road. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
The reason I'm here tonight is this coming Saturday is a very, very busy time in Currituck County. I feel like the town crier. On Saturday, we start out with breakfast with Santa that the Shawboro Ruritans are sponsoring. We have a Christmas parade that the Extension Department is heading up. We have Silver Bells, which is Saturday and Sunday by the Coinjock Ruritan Club. So, as I said, it's a very busy, busy day. But the reason I'm here is to invite you and the citizens of Currituck to come back to the courthouse and join us from 4 to 7. We have planned a few things here. The courthouse and jail will be decorated and will be open for any of the citizens who want to see these 2 buildings. On the porch, Santa Claus will be here, and we will provide free pictures for children who want their picture taken with Santa Claus. We will have a few crafts. We're not going to compete with Silver Bells, but the things that we do have for sale is we have 10 of our Civil War posters that are left. That's it. And some of the ladies in the society have made ornaments that feature the Currituck seal that you can come and get for your Christmas tree. Music will be provided by the Currituck Choir and other groups here in the county. And at 6 o'clock, the Historical Society is providing a Christmas tree for the courthouse, and we will light it at 6. Refreshments will be served at the store. And as I said, the whole area will be open, lighted, and we're inviting all the citizens to come and join us for those 3 hours. Are there any questions?
Yes, sir.
Tell me the hours again, I'm sorry.
4 to 7.
4 to 7 this Saturday.
Yes, 4 to 7 this Saturday.
And the Ruritan breakfast is at 7 o'clock?
That is in the morning.
Right.
Breakfast with Santa, yes.
Okay, it starts at 7 o'clock.
So you have a busy day if you're going to hit all of these civic activities going on.
The parade starts at 9, correct?
I believe so.
Yes. Busy day.
And Silver Bells starts at 10. And so after you've gone to there, you can come here at 4 to 7 and join us for lighting of the tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snowden. Next, we have John Murray.
Evening. John Murray, 148 Coinjock Development Road, scenic downtown Coinjock. This Saturday and Sunday, the Coinjock Ruritans will be hosting our 5th annual Silver Bells Craft and Artisan Show. Little history, the show was established as a means to showcase our local crafters and artisans. It's now spread as one of the premier craft shows in Northeast North Carolina. This year we will have about 70 artisans and crafters from Northeast North Carolina, the Tidewater area, and the Eastern Shore of Virginia. Just about all the available space in the high school will be taken up by various exhibitors. In case you haven't had a chance to see our signs, the hours are 10 to 5 on Saturday and noon to 4 on Sunday at the Currituck High School in Maple. Over the last 5 years, Coinjock Ruritans have been able to give about $50,000 back to the community because of our Silver Bells and Wildlife Festival. About $15,000 has gone to Currituck seniors for scholarships. We've also made significant contributions to various charities, Backpack for Kids, 4-H programs, built some wheelchair ramps, Christmas fruit baskets, just about any need charity that has come to us in the county, we've been able to help some way, shape, or form. So I would invite all the commissioners, you get a chance this weekend, come on out. It's only $3 to get in. I'll foot the bill for you if you can't afford it. It's not a problem, and that'll cover you for the weekend. So I look forward to seeing you all out there.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. All right, that's all I had signed up. Was there anyone else? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. And we have a couple of presentations we need to do. At this time, I believe there's some representatives from the Lower Currituck Fire Department. Oh, we got. I skipped the first one. We'll do that one, then we'll do you. We have an Eagle Scout presentation for Nicholas McKenzie. We're going to do first. Ask commissioners to go down front. So. Let Ms. Gilbert do the presentation. This gentleman is from Moyock, and I believe she wanted to make this presentation tonight. So.
I do. I'm very proud of the Troop 169 and Mr. and Mrs. Ball that has led that group. There's only 2 of them here because the other ones are seniors and they're out working tonight. But I asked them to come and do our pledge tonight, and I wanted to honor Nicholas here, or Nick. He likes to be called Nick. So the resolution recognizing Nicholas McKenzie. Whereas on behalf of the citizens of Currituck County, the Board of Commissioners of Currituck County recognize the attainment of a high honor by young citizens of Currituck County. And whereas at the time when this nation's young people face difficult challenges, the Boy Scouts of America is one of the country's finest assets, providing youth and an educational program that contributes to their character development, citizenship training, and improved mental and physical fitness. And whereas the highest rank a Boy Scout can attain is that of Eagle Scout. And Nicholas McKenzie, after considerable effort and diligent preparation, has joined the prestigious Eagle Court of Honor. And whereas Nicholas McKenzie is one of the only 4% of overall Scout memberships who have claimed the rank of Eagle Scout, and whereas Nicholas McKenzie is a member of the Scout Troop 169, sponsored by the Moyock Ruritan Club, and whereas Nicholas McKenzie's Eagle Project greatly contributed to the betterment of his community as coordinated in the building of footbridges on the grounds of the Mayock Elementary School. And whereas the rank of Eagle Scout is also the culmination of a patriotic concern, devoted efforts of Nicholas McKenzie's numerous adult Scout leaders and caring parents who have worked with him to this end. Now therefore be it resolved that the Currituck County Board of Commissioners join with others in recognition of Nicholas McKenzie for his outstanding accomplishment and wishes him continued success in his life's endeavors, adopted this second day of December 2013. And Nick, I want to congratulate you because you've done a fine job. I was able to attend Nick's honor when he was brought into the Eagle Scouts last Saturday night, and I just want to commend the Fulfords for their leadership. Jeremiah, oh gosh, which twin? Josh. I get the twins mixed up, but Mr. Fulford, the younger Fulford, and all of their accomplishments. And Nick, I just want to commend you because you've done a fantastic job, and you helped me as a commissioner on Mayock to get those bridges at the Mayock Elementary to help with the soccer field. So that was his project for senior. So again, thank you very, very much.
Good job. Now we need to recognize a couple of brave citizens here in Currituck. The fire department has, Lower Currituck Fire Department has a couple of citizens they'd like to recognize. And we also, and Chief Jones will let you and your group that's here tonight tell everyone what we're recognizing tonight. Y'all come on up here so everybody can see who our firemen are in Lower Currituck.
I'm Bill Jones, and I'm Chief of Lower Currituck. This is Wes Liverman. He is the president of the Fire Department Corporation.
Chief. So the microphone.
Mr. Microphone, okay.
There you go. So they can hear
and I want to recognize Chief Robert Glover, Currituck County Fire Minister and White Sheriff. I have some board members here, Charles McNaughton, Larry, and Bill sat down. Let me tell you what this award is all about. On November the 14th, it was a cold November morning, below freezing. Two young men on their way duck hunting. They passed a house, smoke billowing out. They stopped, backed up the truck and looked. By that time, flames were shooting out the front window. In the front doorway was an invalid lady who walks with the assistance of a walker. She didn't have a walker. Standing there, confused, flames leaping over her head. Without due regard for their own safety, they exited a vehicle, ran to the house, endangering their own lives, and assisted this lady to safety. And it is the feeling of the fire department these young gentlemen need to be recognized. Robert Trevilian and Ethan Owens, please come forward. On behalf of the Lower Currituck Volunteer Fire Department, we'd like to present you this life-saving award. Ethan, thank you very much for your service. You're a great asset in the community. Robert?
Wait a minute, guys.
Guys,
Don't go anywhere.
You want to stand right here? I'm going to get out of the way.
Done. Well, we do live in a community where we have good people that are willing to put themselves out to help others. And we're really blessed to have that kind of community here in Currituck. And we, the board, also want to recognize these two fine young gentlemen for doing something that you need to be congratulated for and thanked for. And I know you do it again and without any thought to yourself. So Ethan, we want to recognize you for your bravery and quick action without regard for your own personal safety in assisting a Currituck County citizen from her burning home to a safe haven. So this is for Ethan. Thank you, sir. And Robert, the same, I'm going to read it for you too, so you don't feel slighted. For your bravery and quick action without regard for your own personal safety, you assisted a Currituck County citizen from a burning home and got her to a safe haven. We thank you again, and you gentlemen are fine gentlemen, and we appreciate you. Woodie's here. Thank you for doing a good job. Good job. Go right ahead.
Appreciate you doing all this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Thank you, bud. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all you do.
Yes, sir.
I will say, as they're leaving, and with all the negativity that's going on in the world now, it's certainly nice to be able to recognize young people that are certainly striving to make our community better. It's a pleasure to recognize those young folks tonight. All right, our next agenda item is the first public hearing. It's public hearing in action on PB 8411, Corolla Light, Phase 12, Beacon Village, request for a preliminary plat and special use permit to create 32 lots along NC 12, south of Shad Street, tax map 115B, parcels P51 and open 007D, Poplar Branch Township. Mr. Woody, this is a special use permit, so anyone that wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request tonight and you have evidence to bring forward, please come forward to be sworn. I have 6 people signed up to speak, and I've got 4 people that are coming to be sworn, so 2 people that signed up haven't come forward. Put your left hand and raise your right hand. And we're still -1. I'll assume that that individual wishes not to speak. Okay, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you, Mr. Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for 16 duplexes or 32 dwelling units on Corolla Light Phase 12, the tracts known as Beacon Village. The 2006 land use plan classifies this part of Corolla as full service, which, as you know, is Currituck's designation for development. In this particular PUD, the Corolla Light Plan Unit Development, for which this is a part of, the PUD as a total, if this project is approved, will have a density of 2.45 units per acre, which PUDs are allowed to have an overall density up to 3 units per acre. This particular tract will have a density of 10 units per acre. The tract will be served by water from the Currituck County Southern Outer Banks water system, and it is proposed to be serviced by the Carolina water system for central sewer, as all our PUDs are. The Board of Commissioners approved earlier this year an amended sketch plan removing this particular phase 12, from open space and allowing it to be developed for residential purposes, for multifamily in this particular case. There are 3 things I want to cover as part of this request moving forward, and these are things that through the planning board meeting and coming to this meeting that the developer or the applicant asked for some clarification on, and I think staff has worked through these issues with the developer, but I do want to cover these real quickly. First is, when the board approved the sketch plan in September of 2013, there was a condition that stated development shall not occur on phases 10, 12, 13, or 14 of Corolla Light until such time as required wastewater capacity is made available. There's been some question about what development means exactly in the context of that condition. So we have worked with the developer, staff has, to clarify that or make it more clear on what the intent was. I'll note that as part of this preliminary plat submission, the developer applicant has in hand the permit for the expansion of the Monterey Shores wastewater system. That was one of the requirements they had to meet before applying for the plat. What the modified condition would say is that a final plat, which is the creation of lots, or a major site plan, which is the creation of a development, not be approved on phases 10, 12, 13, or 14 of Corolla Light until such time as required wastewater capacity is available and or is constructed and available to accept flows. So what that means, what that's saying in English, is basically they are proposing that as the subdivision infrastructure is constructed, the expansion of the wastewater plant will occur concurrently or simultaneously, and that will be completed, the subdivision infrastructure and the wastewater expansion, before they record any lots or have a final plat approved. So that basically puts the timing of the wastewater expansion with the subdivision infrastructure, but requires both those things to occur before lots are platted. That was the first thing. The second one was the payment in lieu requirement. The UDO requires every new subdivision or development to provide a parkland and recreation dedication. That's something authorized by the state statutes, and what it does, it allows county governments to anticipate future growth and provide parkland amenities or recreation amenities for the residents that come along with future growth. The way the UDO spells this out is when when a number of units are proposed, that equates to an amount of land area. So in this case, the dedication amount would have been 0.816 acres. At this particular location in Phase 12 along the highway, it really doesn't provide enough land to do anything significant with. So then the Technical Review Committee has the ability to require a payment in lieu or a fee in lieu. So rather than take the 0.86 acres, you establish a value for that land, and then the payment's made to the county to then provide recreation amenities in close proximity to this development. In this case, the TRC opted to collect the fee or accept the payment in lieu in the dedication. The fee amount was $162,987, which is pretty significant. What the developer has done is they have the ability to appeal that, and they have filed an appeal of that payment in lieu amount. And what they proposed is to pay a fee in lieu minus what they have to pay to Corolla Light Property Owners Association to have access to those amenities. So in this case, for this developer to have access to the private amenities of the Corolla Light Association, it would cost him $128,000 to buy into that. Now that obviously provides some recreation benefit to the future purchasers of these homes. The difference between $128,000 and what the county fee amount was, which was $162,000 and some change, is $34,987.97. So in summary, what the developer is proposing in their appeal is to do the payment in lieu to the county of $34,987.97, and then with the remaining of that money that otherwise would have been paid being provided to the Corolla Light Association for access to their private amenities. So that's their proposal for you on that. Hopefully that makes sense. The last thing is some discussion on sidewalk. In the original submittal, the developer requested to not install a sidewalk along NC 12. We have subsequently met with the developer and discussed that, and I think staff has come to a reasonable compromise on that, which is the developer will install a sidewalk from the trolley stop into their development, down the private drive they're constructing, and from that private drive northward to the Shad Street, or to Shad Street. Now, the importance of that is that connects these 32 dwelling units plus the 10 dwelling units in the adjoining subdivision directly to Shad Street, which is a road that provides public access to the beach and includes a parking lot. So I think that gets us a good connection from this development to Shad Street. Now, it's not all along 12. Part of the sidewalk goes through the development, but where the development's access point intersects with 12, at that point it goes down 12 to Shad Street. So staff felt like that was a reasonable means to accommodate a sidewalk and get people safely to a beach access. So those are the three items that were included. Hopefully I've covered those well. If you have questions, let me know. Staff does not have any opposition to either of those requests by the developer at this point. As part of this request, you also have to approve a special use permit, and that requires you make findings, as you're aware of. I'm not going to go through all those individually, but in your staff report, staff has suggested findings for each of the 4 use permit criteria. I can answer questions on those if you have any. The Technical Review Committee has reviewed this request. The TRC does recommend approval with 5 conditions, one being the one I read about the timing of the final plat and the wastewater expansion being the first condition. 2, that the payment in lieu amount as determined by the Board of Commissioners be collected prior to recording the first final plat, which we discussed was the difference between the fee paid to Corolla Light Association and the payment in lieu amount. Number 3, any county well field sites in Corolla Light shall not be used as sewer green space. That protects our public drinking water interest in the subdivision. All costs for Monterey Shores treatment plant expansion shall be paid by Outer Banks Ventures or the developers of Corolla Light phases 10, 12, 13, and 14. And condition 5, that all required landscaping be installed in accordance with the notes on submitted plans. That's the TRC recommendation. The Planning Board heard this request at their November meeting. They did recommend approval. As part of their recommendation of approval, they stated that utilizing the proposed separation from the gutter and paving materials provided adequate separation for the sidewalk. So let me say that more clearly. Internal to the on the drive that exists in the proposed development, there's a vehicular way where the cars drive, obviously, and there's a sidewalk. The sidewalk and the access, the vehicular drive, are separated by a gutter section. So there is some separation in different types of materials. There was some question if that was adequate in terms of public safety. That was discussed at the Planning Board, and they made the recommendation. They felt that that separation using a gutter was adequate for public safety. And that motion passed unanimously, and the Planning Board did recommend approval. And with that, I can answer any questions you have.
Questions for Mr. Woody?
Just one, when you said gutter, is that just a trench or something that runs beside the road and separates that from the sidewalk?
It's like a valley gutter, basically.
Okay.
Kind of like a trench, yeah.
All right.
So you
Thank
have some physical separation between the sidewalk and the road.
All right.
Mr. Petrey?
Mr. Woody, the sidewalk's going to go from the trolley to the entrance to the subdivision.
Yes.
It's not going to go down 12. It's going to go through the subdivision to Shad Street.
That's correct.
And then you're going to have a sidewalk from the other entrance to the subdivision. That's going to be a one-way road, I think, right?
It is, yeah. To clarify, that drawing is not correct. What we've discussed with the developer, which we think is appropriate, is the sidewalk goes from the trolley stop east into the subdivision, utilizes the subdivision drive, and then when it connects back to NC-12, it goes from there north to Shad Street.
Okay. That's the answer.
Yeah, I've got three things. Number one, the sewer issue. All the outstanding little issues are taken care of. Do I understand that correct, Mr. Woody?
Yes.
Okay, so we have
For phase 12, yes.
We have adequate spray field area there for that.
They have the permit to construct, yes.
Okay, got permit to construct, contingent upon the final plat being recorded. Then the construction will have to take place before that.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good to go with all the sewer issues. Okay. Density. Explain that again to me, what you said about density. I heard you say something about under a PUD, the density was what? And then you said something about 10 units per acre. I missed that.
So our plan unit developments, are comprised of many different phases and lots of land area, and there's a maximum density for a plan unit development in Currituck County, and that is 3 acres, or 3 units per acre. So if you had a 100-acre PUD, your maximum density for that whole PUD would be 300 units.
Okay.
Now what's happened is those units get spread around in different ways. I mean, some phases of a PUD will have 1 or 2 units per acre, whereas some phases of a PUD will have 5, 6, or 7 units per net acre. This particular phase, if you take 32 units on about 3 acres, 4 acres of land, it ends up being about 10 units per acre. That's the net density of phase 12. But the density of the Corolla PUD as a whole is still under 3 at about 2.6.
Got it. So, I mean, the same circumstance could happen
Yes.
anywhere as it was a PUD.
It just depends on how densities get clustered in different concentrations, yeah.
So that's nothing unusual.
Nothing unusual. I just wanted to make sure the board understood.
Okay. And the last thing, the payment in lieu of. It appears to me that with the fees that they're paying Corolla Light, plus the payment they're going to come with us, that adds up to the total amount of what it would have been beforehand.
It does.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
correct.
Anyone else? Hearing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. The first person who signed up is David Masso. Do you want to be first, or do you want your engineer first?
Well, I can speak. I would just like to say thank you for your consideration. And I mean, Ben did a fantastic job. I don't really know if there's anything else for me to say. I mean, we signed up in case there was questions from you guys. But so if you have anything, I'm happy to answer it. But
I guess a good question is, does anyone on the board have questions of the engineer and the applicant?
I don't. Would answer my questions.
Everyone's okay with okay? But we do have, I'm going to ask everyone if they wish to speak. We have Philip Meggs. Does he wish to speak?
Unless there's any answers from a builder.
Scott Midget?
Yes, sir.
Chandler Barn.
I'm fine.
Robert Hobbs.
Unless there are any questions.
Carlos Gomez.
So,
All right. Hearing none. No further questions. I'll close the public hearing and ask the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve PB 84-11 with staff findings and recommendations included in the case analysis and a payment in lieu amount of $34,987.97.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Item B. Item B, public hearing and action. PB 99-20, Thrasher Mine, request for a special use permit modification to expand an existing mining operation located in Moyock at 144 Lazy Corner Road, tax map 9, parcel 53A, Moyock Township. I have 3 people signed up to speak. If you wish to speak, you need to come forward and be sworn in. Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. I do.
Thank you. Mr. Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to expand an existing mine. And as you remember, earlier this year, at the request of Bonnie Bright, who was a mine over in Knott's Island, we amended the ordinance to allow some expansion of mines under certain conditions. This particular mine meets those conditions, and they're here before you tonight to ask for an expansion. Basically, what you have is a site that is 311 acres, approximately, has about 12.9 acres of wetlands, which we don't include the wetlands in any of these calculations. They're excluded by ordinance. But effectively, you've got an existing mine of about 94 acres. And what they're requesting is to expand that mining area by 55 acres, which brings us to a total of 149.39 acre mine. And again, that's in the context of a 311 acre site. And you can see on the site plan, the existing area of the mine is kind of in a gray area, and then you see cross-hatching that goes around basically the borders, the boundaries of that existing mine. And that's the areas that will be where the expansion is planned to be or to occur. So it just kind of expands out from that existing center point of the mine. They did hold, as required for this, they did hold a community meeting for this application on June 24th, 2013, and actually most of the comments at the community meeting were positive. Actually had support for a mine, which really isn't typical, but we did for this one. There were some questions and concerns about some right turns and traffic and things, but nothing major came up at the community meeting. There's a copy of that summary in your agenda packet. As I mentioned, they're asking to expand the acreage of the mine. That is allowed in our new UDO. You can expand mining operations up to 50. The Board of Commissioners can approve expansions up to 50% of the site. That's provided the mining operation has maintained compliance with state permits and county special use permit for a 5-year period, which they have. We don't have any record on file or with the state of any violations at this particular mine. Another thing they've asked for, which we see from time to time on these mines, is allowed by the ordinance, is they're requesting reduction in a required setback. The setback from property line is 100 feet. However, you can reduce that setback to 50 feet if screening or of some type is provided. They're proposing a berm with screening along one of the property lines to request that reduced setback from 100 to 50 feet. Then also there's a condition of their original approval that required the future development of the site to be a residential community and or golf course, and they want to remove that condition and have the flexibility that once the mining operation is completed, that they could have other options for the property beyond just a residential community with a golf course, which staff thinks is reasonable because we don't really know what the future holds in this part of the county. And then lastly, staff is also, in these old permits, a lot of times the county would take the old findings of fact that were made and kind of regurgitate old ordinance standards that lived in the permit. Staff is removing these old standards and letting the permit just have the conditions that are relative to operation and let the ordinance requirements remain in the ordinance. Because the problem with putting an ordinance requirement in a permit is if the board decides to change the ordinance, you've still got that old standard that lives in the permit, so you've created another process that has to occur. So it doesn't really make sense to do that. And the last thing is, as part of this application, an updated groundwatering monitoring report was prepared by Bissell Professional Group. They have installed 4 monitoring wells adjacent to the mine and plan to continue to use the groundwater recharge system exits on the property and modify those for continued use around the mine expansion area. So again, that's a groundwater recharge ditch that they have, typical for mines. There are special use permit review standards in your staff report. There's 4 criteria they have to meet. Staff has suggested findings for each of those. I won't go through those unless you have a question. The technical review committee does recommend approval of this request. There are a lot of TRC recommendations in your staff report. Any ones that are new are underlined. Any ones that are proposed to be removed have strike-throughs. I'm not going to read all those because there is probably 40, and you probably want to listen to me read 40 conditions. But needless to say, most of the redundancies have been removed. And the one condition I want to highlight that is included in this approval is that discharge water samples that test for solids, turbidity, and pH shall be collected and tested quarterly. And the 4 monitoring wells shall be maintained and tested semi-annually for quality and monthly for quantity. The testing report shall be submitted to the county within 30 days of the reporting deadlines. That's a similar condition that we've put on other mines, and that just creates a kind of an accountability or a testing procedure that occurs with these mines to make sure they're not having impacts on the water table. The planning board heard this request at their November meeting, and they did recommend approval. And with that, I can answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Woody?
Yeah, Mr. Woody.
Sir.
The test wells you're talking about, to what depth do they put those down?
I'd have to get the engineer to answer that question.
Okay. I mean, you're familiar with, I have a concern about quantity of water again, as we did. I don't know what the situation in Knights Island, whether it got resolved or not, but I know what I saw. And, you know, had a residential development come in next door, had to put in a fire pond, and they had to pump the pond full of water from the sound.
Yeah.
Because there was no water there. And that concerns me some, and I'm just wondering what level does the test wells ensure that the water levels are being maintained where they should be, to where people don't have to put in deeper wells and that type of stuff?
And I'd like to ask the engineer to answer that question.
That'd be fine.
Now, I will say this particular mine, I mean, it does have some residents that are in somewhat close proximity, but it doesn't have a lot of, it doesn't have a subdivision, for example, right beside it necessarily. So we've got a little bit of separation.
And again, I don't know if that's the issue there or not. I just know what, you know, the speculation was.
All right. Any further questions before we allow the engineer to answer those?
I have one. Mr. Woody, the berm, where they're asking for the 50-foot change, what type of berm would that be? Would it be vegetated with certain trees and or vegetation, or what? Do you have any idea?
I do. It would have to be, now we have, the county has it's got to provide an opaque screening. So basically it's got to be a solid type of, the county has a plant list so that the designer can select different types of trees and different species, but there is a threshold for the number of trees and the density at which they have to be planted. So the idea is that it is an opaque screen.
Okay.
So it
would
would
be
provide
evergreen?
We don't necessarily, we do allow deciduous trees in that berm, and that's a good point, because in the wintertime, if it's only deciduous trees, you'd be able to see through the plantings. So no, it doesn't have to be evergreen necessarily.
Well, I just you said opaque.
Yeah, yeah.
At one time, if you put Russian olives in, or I don't know what vegetation you would put there, and I don't know how close the other houses may be there. So I just want to protect the other people's land there to keep that from being something, well, an eyesore.
Is it, yeah, and as a condition of approval, we could specify that evergreen material be included in the planting plan, which isn't a bad idea.
I think probably that would prevent that from happening, during the 6 months of the year or so, 5 months, whatever it is, when they drop their leaves. Could be.
Problem with vegetation is you can put evergreens up, but
They grow.
there's a worm or a disease or something that gets them. The county in the past has required different types of vegetation and
Bagworms.
Bagworms, yeah, and they wear the evergreens out, and then you just have.
Well, you could put like a wax myrtle or a Russian olive, like he said, would be something that they wouldn't have.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of planning, we had a discussion, I think, with you a couple of weeks ago. We had talked about the need to plant trees at a certain height at certain times of year, and it's more effective. They have a better chance of surviving if the trees are smaller to start off with rather than a big tree to transplant it. Is that something that's being taken into consideration? As far as the height goes, I know we've got a requirement, but I think we had the conversation, about that.
It should be. I mean, you could consider it or specify it as part of this approval tonight. In a general perspective, the staff is actually meeting with extension staff later this week to talk about preferred planting sizes and type. We're trying to improve some of what we specify, so that can be an issue, though.
Well, the concern was that people were planting larger trees and they weren't surviving, and it doesn't do any good if it's going to die. You've defeated the purpose. So thank you.
Well, to follow up on that, Ben, it's the planting of the tree and the special use permits and the conditions that are contained therein. When you do the follow-up to see for the follow-up for compliance, is there something in the language, the original language, at least in this or in the past ones, where if the trees subsequently die, they have to be replaced, or if the vegetation dies? Or is the requirement just for the initial planting, and then after that, if they die or whatever, then there's no requirement for follow-up? In other words, to maintain and establish a barrier.
There is. The ordinance requires that it be planted, and actually staff will go do an inspection before this kind of approval is released. But the ordinance goes further to say that any planting that's required must be maintained and live. So in theory, if we came back 5 years later and it was dead, the owner would be responsible for replacement.
All right. Any other questions? With that, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask David Klevitz. I know I'm chopping it up. You can pronounce it proper.
I'm with Bissell Professional Group, and we filed the application for this expansion on behalf of the Thrashers. Again, I think Mr. Woody's presentation was accurate in terms of everything that he discussed. I'm here tonight to answer any questions, but I'd also like to add that the state has issued their approval for this mine expansion subject to the Thrashers posting the balance of their bond, which has been calculated. They just haven't posted it yet until this public hearing. I'd also like to mention that the day-to-day operation of the mine isn't going to change. It's been in operation for, I think, 13 years, and they're not proposing to change the way it operates. They're just expanding the excavation area. So that's about all I've got to add. Mr. Adlet, if you don't mind asking your question again about the monitoring well, if that's...
I was curious as to what depth do the monitoring wells go? I mean, how do they monitor the water level? I guess that's what I'm asking.
The wells for this particular project, according to the specification, which was, these things were installed, again, probably 13 years ago when the mine was first put in operation. According to the detail, they were installed 10 to 12 feet in the ground. And they are at various distances away from the mine so that you can monitor how the water level is changing as you extend away from the mine. So that's that's the detail that we've used for this mine. It's detail that we've used for the Bright mine. It's a common detail. So and that's about how deep that it goes.
Well, I was referring to, they just put a subdivision over next to the Bright mine. Had to put a fire pond in. The fire pond's probably 10 foot deep, and they had to pump water from the sound to fill the pond. They'd come in and take a sand layer, a clay layer down, and then to get the water to stay in the pond. So it tells me that the water level is down.
Correct.
So I don't know if the mine has anything to do with that. That's something I think our folks were looking at, but I'm just curious. That's
Yeah,
all.
there's lots of things that are involved in what the water level is doing around and underneath of a mine, so it's difficult to say. Though we did do a groundwater monitoring report for this project where we looked at all 13 years of the groundwater monitoring data that's been recorded in the records just to see what impacts this particular mine has had. We did the same thing for the Bright mine, and we don't anticipate there being any issues. There haven't been any issues brought forward in the 13 years that I'm aware of on this project, and we don't anticipate there being any more based on the monitoring that we looked at.
I'm just curious.
Yes,
That's all.
sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Petrey.
What's the maximum depth of the mine?
25 feet.
25 feet. So that's uniform straight across. That's the deepest you can go.
That's it's technically 25-foot average depth, though I don't think that they go much deeper than
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Mr. Griggs.
Yeah, just a couple questions, and it's going to be maybe specific to this, but just to enlighten me on similar activities. The recharging ditches, how long has that been a process that's been in place, if you know?
It's been in place since I've ever been doing mining, which hasn't been too terribly long, but I think that it was established practice long before me.
And of course,
because it seems like all the mining operators like to use that in this particular area.
And of course, the idea of that is to, between the mining operation and the surrounding area, is to introduce water that can be recharged back into the ground system that will diminish the so-called cone of depression that emanates from where the mining is. Now, if I remember correctly, looking through your packet, reviewing it, the average depth had, during the pendency of your study, had fluctuated, but it's apparently now around 8 feet. Your monitor, if I remember that correctly, it's around 8 feet.
Okay.
If I remember correct, you said that your monitoring wells are at 10 feet. Just as curiosity, at what point in time, if the water level drops below 10 feet, or what's the trigger? What would be the diminution of the water table? At what point would that trigger a concern, and is that something that I would ask Ben, or is that, technically, what is that? I'm just curious of that.
Well, I guess in general, it's really difficult to say at what point that becomes a problem. It really, in my mind, it has to do with what it potentially impacts and how close those things are. If the nearest thing that you could potentially impact is thousands of feet away from your mine, and you're experiencing drawdowns of 10 to 12 feet at 100 feet away from your mine, that's not so concerning.
Yeah.
But if you had houses with wells that were right next to the mine, then obviously that could potentially be more of a concern.
I was asking more just as an overview to try to get up to speed on other mines and whatever, and I was just wondering, was there some sort of engineering criteria that was utilized and determined what would be a trigger that would require closer scrutiny or more attention, and just out of curiosity.
No, in terms of this particular mine, there's no trigger that says, okay, we've got a problem.
Okay, and again, it wasn't directly at this, it was just trying to get an idea, because we have these recharging ditches, we have monitoring wells, all of them are ostensibly for the purposes of monitoring the quality of the water in the water table. Therefore, at what point those activities and monitoring, at what point in time do they become important and trigger something? I was just curious.
All right. Anyone else? We have Mr. Ralph Jones signed up to speak. Would you like to come forward?
My name is Ralph Jones. I live at 149 Richardson Road. Mr. Thrasher has been up there for 13 years, and it's like he's never even up there. We don't know that he's doing business up there unless you go up there. He lives, he works quarter of a mile off the road. We never even know he's there. We have county sewer in the area and county water. There's no traffic. We don't see his trucks unless we pull up to his lane. Right. We don't have any problem with Thrasher Sand Company, Elbow Sand.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We have Carl Jones.
He was in favor of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Couldn't hear it.
Please give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Carl Jones. My property is 147 Richardson Road. I am basically the elected spokesman for the community, which is Nicholas Village, better known as Newtown. And Mr. Thrasher, the mine there, Mr. Thrasher has been very instrumental in donating field dirt, whatever someone needs, or driveways if you feel, or kind of whatever they need. He's been super instrumental in it without any problem whatsoever. If I make a request to him, one of the residents needs some dirt, as soon as I get it to him, he's on it the next day. So, and Christmas, they always give the community boxes. Like we try to do the needy families for Christmas, and this year we are going to include the widows. And I haven't given him the list yet, so but I'm not anticipating any problems. But over the years, he's been very instrumental. We have had some problems with trucks making right turns, and whenever I go up there to him and tell him, say, well, one of your drivers or somebody made a right turn down Newtown Road, he's on it immediately, make sure his drivers don't make a right turn on Newtown Road. But this tears our road up. So he's on top of everything, and we've never had a problem with him, and we're glad to have him in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all I had signed up to speak. I'll close the public hearing and ask the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will move to approve PB 99-20 with the staff findings, recommendations included in the case analysis.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next agenda item is item C, public hearing and action, PB 13-23, Charles Perry. Request for a use permit to operate automobile sales in Grandy at 6331, 6333, and 6335 Currituck Highway, tax map 94, parcel 135B, Poplar Branch Township. Is anybody here representing Mr. Perry? Well, with no one here to represent Mr. Perry, that item will be continued to the next agenda. You need somebody make it.
I make a motion that we extend that to the next meeting.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. All right, next item is public hearing and action, PB 1328, Coinjock Ruritan Club, request for an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 4, Section 4.4.6.I, special events, and Chapter 5, Section 5.12.3J, development standards to exempt the Coinjock Ruritan Club from special event and signage requirements. Mr. Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a text amendment that amends really two parts of the ordinance, and I'm going to cover both real quickly. One is it would create an exemption for the Coinjock Ruritan Club from the special event requirements. And of course, part of being exempted from the special event requirements is not having to get a permit for a special event, among other things. The other part of the request is that it would exempt the Coinjock Ruritan Club from having to comply with the signage standards. It basically would say that the Ruritan Club would be able to have temporary signage that wouldn't be subject to the number, the quantity, or the limitations of the ordinance. So real quickly, and I'll do this kind of one part at a time. The first is related to the special event requirements. Basically, in Currituck County, if a private property owner conducts or holds a special event, they're required to get a permit. The purpose of the permit is to ensure, primarily to ensure that the county's public safety departments are able to have an inventory and know what types or how many events are occurring on a weekend. So, for example, if you had 2 or 3 events that were expected to draw 500 or 600 people each, the county would be able to program resources accordingly. It could be law enforcement, it could be fire and EMS, it could even be health department, whatever it needs to be. That's the purpose of the special event permit. Now, there are some exemptions to that do exist. Not everybody's got to get a special event permit. County-sponsored events are exempt because you assume if the county's sponsoring it, the county departments know it's occurring. 2 is events that occur at a private residence are exempt, so you don't need to come get a permit if you're going to have your daughter's wedding reception in your backyard. And the third thing is events held at facilities that are intended to accommodate that event would be exempt too. So, for example, churches have all kinds of events. They have sanctuaries and facilities that are built to accommodate those events. We don't make churches come and get special event permits. What this amendment does, however, though, is it takes that exemption list and adds Coinjock Ruritan Club to it. The second part of this exemption, or this request, this amendment, is to exempt the Coinjock Ruritan Club from the sign requirements. As you know, we have a sign ordinance in Currituck County, and it relates to a number of different things, to permanent signage, off-premise signage, etc. There's one particular area of the sign ordinance that says, in conjunction with a special event, a organization can go out and place temporary signage along the corridor or on the highway to promote that event. And what it specifically says is that if you have an event and you want to put signs out, you can have up to 60 small signs, or you can have up to 40 small signs and 10 large signs. So there's quite a number of signs. So if you're having an event, you can have these signs. You can place them out. It does specify a time period in which they go out and then have to come back in. The point of that is that effectively to have these signs, there's a cap on the number you can have, and they can't be located in sight triangles and right-of-ways. Which the idea of not allowing signs in sight triangle and right-of-ways has been something that's been in our ordinance for a very long time. That's really nothing new. But the permit and the cap and everything is part of a recent text amendment that was approved last year. So again, the point of that is that nonprofits or even for-profits, folks that have special events, have the ability to have between 40 and 60 off-premise signs. However, that comes within the framework of location, a maximum number, when they can go out, when they have to come back in. And again, what this text amendment does by the Coinjock Ruritan Club is propose that particular organization be exempt from the limitations of the sign ordinance. And effectively, staff, the TRC has reviewed this request, and the staff is recommending denial of the request based on, one, that the application, this request in and of itself applies to a specific organization, which would conflict with the public interest and, of course, would not be consistent or in harmony with the intent and purpose of the Unified Development Ordinance. The Planning Board heard this case at their November meeting, and they did recommend denial of the request. That denial recommendation was on a 5-3 vote. And again, the Planning Board's primary reason for the recommendation was denial was that it singles out an organization from others. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the Board has.
All right, questions for Mr. Woody?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Explain to me again about the signs in the right-of-way. I understand the triangle. I understand that part. But the right-of-way part, I'm assuming this is the state right-of-way.
Yes. Could be a state. It could be a private right-of-way, too. It'd be a street right-of-way.
And I don't want to get it too far in the weeds here. When campaign signs go out, they can be in the right-of-way.
I believe there's an exemption in the state statutes for campaign signs. Now, there's under certain conditions that exemption exists, and I don't remember those all. That the attorney may know those, but I can't remember those.
I think
offhand.
it requires for campaign signs, it requires permission from the adjoining property to the right-of-way, needs to give permission for you to put your sign there for campaign signs. And that's a state statute.
I just have a concern, and I'll voice it now or voice it later. We heard Mr. Murray talk about how much this organization does. We've heard how much that the ALAL does to raise money, and it's all for the community. And personally, I'd like to find a way, if we can alter anything, to allow some signs in the right-of-way. I can understand the triangle, with the stipulation that if we have to go pick it up, maybe, I don't know if that language is possible, but, we'll give you a go at it 1 year, and then next year, if you mess it up, then you're exempt. That might create more work than it's worth for staff.
Isn't the right-of-way, I mean, that's a state statute anyhow, regardless of whether we had it or not. Makes no difference whether we have it or not. It's a state statute.
It is. It's a state statute and a local.
Now, are we enforcing a state statute?
We enforce our local ordinance.
So if we took our ordinance out to allow the right-of-way, then it would be a state issue. Is that right?
It would be a violation of state law. That's correct.
So it would be state enforcement instead of county enforcement.
Oh, yes.
You think?
I mean, obviously, if it's not in the county ordinance, the county wouldn't enforce it.
What's the what was the size on? I remember the 4010. Like you said, we've talked about this multiple times. What's the size of the 10 other signs?
It is, and I couldn't get my hands on it when we were okay. You can have 40 signs with a maximum area of 6 square feet and 10 signs with a maximum area of 32 square feet. So if you choose to do that option, you get 40 small signs and you get 10 32 square foot signs. Or you can just do 60 6 square foot signs.
Mr. Woody, I think people are under the impression there was not an ordinance before this one was adopted. Could you please go through the previous ordinance and how this came about so that people understand how this came about?
Yeah, the previous ordinance included an exemption for temporary signage or special event signage, but that ordinance had a cap of 10 signs. So under the previous ordinance, you could have they still couldn't be in the right of way of the site triangle. That was still not allowed, but you could put up to 10 signs out for a special event. But why this came about is some of the nonprofits felt like they wanted to have more than 10 signs. So part of this was a committee was formed, and through that process, the total number of signs was raised to 40 and 60, those two options. And with that, I think some of the permit requirements and some of the other time frames tightened up on those signs. So it was kind of a trade-off of more signs for making sure the signs were put out and taken up in a more prompt manner.
But the signs were illegal in the right-of-way before.
They have, yes. To my knowledge, our ordinance has always included the limitation on a right-of-way and
it allowed 10 signs.
10.
So violations, complaints is what drove the county to start enforcing that, correct?
Yes, in large part.
And then what was the next step?
Well, the next step is we had the committee of nonprofits primarily that met to discuss revisions to the sign ordinance, and that's where we came to the ordinance we have today.
Okay.
Mr. Woody, has anyone collected any data as to the numbers of calls that you got prior to the ordinance coming into effect? And in other words, has it had an impact? I guess that's my question. Is it something we've put in place that hadn't done anything, or is it something that has done something and had the intended consequences of what it was designed to do, and clear up the corridor somewhat, clean up the corridor somewhat?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have hard data to say this many signs were out before versus after. I will say anecdotally, I think the corridor has had less clutter on it, less signage is left out. I certainly know that you don't see the signs that are just, there's still some, but you don't see as many signs that are left on the side of the road. And that, there's signs we would pick up sometimes from events that were 6 months past. You don't seem to see that anymore.
And if my recollection is correct, that was the intent of what we were trying to do, is that to get it where they were cleaned up. It wasn't so much people putting signs out as it was picking them back up. And I mean, I certainly realize that campaign signs are just as ugly and just as bad, and some don't pick them up neither. That's for sure.
There's some still out there.
Well, ain't mine. That's all I can tell you.
I'd like to say, I think what the goal is there's a lot of need in Currituck County, and there's a lot of people that want to help. But to me, I think we need to find a way to help them. If it means loosening it up or whatever we've got to do. But I know we heard Mr. Murray talk about a while ago, $50,000 they've donated to the community. I feel like that we need to do as a board to help them do their job. If it's give them a chance to put signs in the right of way, I would make a motion if I could get the support to remove it. I don't know, but I know there's a lot of need, and we've got hungry families and hungry kids, and these people are helping bringing it to the table. I know the ALAL is helping stuff, and I don't want to put a noose around their neck or a leash to keep them from trying to do their job to help people, and that's my number one concern.
Mr. Woody, I have a question. The participants that participated in the advisor group that came up with the recommended ordinance that we've passed and implemented, who were some of the organizations that had participated? Who were the seats at that table? Do you recall?
I can recall some, but I couldn't name them all. If you do you want me to name some of them, or? I don't know that
I mean, there was a
anybody
significant
else.
amount
Yeah.
of nonprofits that
It
were
was-
at the table.
It was the majority of the nonprofits that have special events in the county, yes.
Okay, so that
I
pretty
would
much
say yes.
a good representation is what I'm asking.
It
So
was.
they had input and did their due diligence to come up with something that was palatable for each group.
They did, and not everybody agreed, but that's part of working through a committee or a process is trying to find common ground, which is, again, that's why you have more signs than you did previously, but why you probably have more limitations on the time frames that go out and when they come in. So,
What is the time frame on all that stuff? Could you
it
address that?
is. You can put on the mainland. On the mainland, you can put the signs out 17 days before the event, and you have to remove them within 8 days after the event. And then on the Outer Banks, it is 3 days before the event and 2 days after the event. So you really got to be quick on the Outer Banks.
Why is that different?
It's always been that way on the Outer Banks. And because the special events are primarily in the summer, they tend to occur weekly, and you're advertising for a different set of people every week. I mean, you don't have the same people driving to work every day. So fitting the time frame in a week makes more sense on the Outer Banks given the makeup of the people that are there.
All right, Mr. Griggs.
Yeah, one question. This will be it's more of a procedural question directed to the legality. And so I'll direct this to our county attorney.
Well, as the particular amendment that's before you, the general rule of law is that similar parties or similar entities should be treated alike. And so what that means is you have the authority and ability in a zoning ordinance context to create classifications of entities or uses, but within those classifications, all those entities or uses must be treated the same. So we do that by regulating signage as it relates to all nonprofits, which is the issue here. We do that regulating signage as it relates to all commercial businesses through the allowance of on-site advertising, but not off-site. And all that is perfectly legal. But what you have before you now is the request from one group to be excluded, and only that group be excluded from the applicability of an ordinance to it. And so you would be acting, if you were to adopt such an ordinance, beyond your legal authority and would be open to a constitutional challenge of equal protection by other groups similar to this one that were not allowed the same benefit.
So I guess to follow up, probably, and again, was a procedural question, it's one of these, if we're going to exempt one, we should exempt all. And if we're not going to exempt all, then we're in that trick bag or problematic as far as procedural or legality. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's kind of either or. So
Yes.
maybe, I guess, the proper question I submit maybe before us is, should we look again? I mean, if I've heard the settlement that there should be a change, and for all the laudable reasons, the good reasons, and if in fact there's a will on the board to revisit this pursuant to the question, maybe that's the more proper question that should be posed before us, instead of an individual exemption, which, according to our county attorney, we may not have the legal authority to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, sir.
In my opinion, simply, we've looked at something, identified a problem, we come up with what we thought was a solution, we've tested it to try it out. If there's issues and problems, by all means, that's what we need to do. It's exactly what Mr. Griggs said. It needs to be comprehensive across the board for everybody. But I think we need to keep in mind what the intent was in the beginning. The intent certainly was not to do any harm to any nonprofit organization whatsoever. That was not the intent. And if we've done that, we need to fix that. Bottom line, we need to fix it. But the intent was to help clean up our corridor as well. As long as we can figure something out that will help ensure that signs are being picked up and that type of stuff, and still help, like the Ruritans and the Knights Island Ruritans and all the nonprofits. If we can help them to function easier or better, I'm all in favor of that. I don't have a problem doing that at all.
Thank you.
But, we just need to keep in mind the whole picture of why we done what we done. And now let's look at how it went through and the test that's been done, and where's rooms for improvement. It's called continuous process improvement.
Well, how about we open the public hearing and let the speaker speak, and then we'll, appears to me we're going to make a motion to look at it again, so let's go ahead and do the public hearing. And we have signed up Walton Carter.
You need to be sworn in?
No, sir.
I'm Walton Carter, 119 Carter's Court Road, Coinjock. Lived all my life. I reckon what I'm asking you is, in these economic times with civic organizations trying to raise money, I'm asking for less government, not more government. That's the way I'm looking at it myself now. And I base that on, I've been in that club for 41 years. And we have never had a problem with the county that I know of. And now all of a sudden, we have to send people to go do things we never had to do before. And we're stretched pretty thin with the number of people we have. Some other people don't even know the rules and regulations they're under. It's an eye-opener when you talk to some of them. And it's on a case-by-case basis. I reckon what I'm trying to tell you is, our club don't want to be under the umbrella of government any more than we have to. Because what worries us is, what's coming next? Are you going to tell us who we have to give the money to or whatever? What we would like to do is enjoy the same thing you politicians do under the same umbrella. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Got any questions?
I have a question.
Huh?
I mean, as far as when you said, and like you said, your organization's gotten shorter, I mean, as far as the days and so forth, you want more signage?
No. We take up our signs the night of, from here to Elizabeth City. The only problem we have had a problem is in Currituck, by having to move 3 feet or whatever. And on the rest of the counties, we don't have any problem. We got signs out right now. I've been waiting for a call, but we hadn't gotten one yet, so I hope they're in the right places. I don't know. We have people come from all over. We try to advertise for these people. Like Mr. Murray said, we got 70-some people coming. People riding up down the road need to know. All of them don't get the newspaper. And our best way of advertisements is our signage. And if you look at it, those signs are picked up and carried to our building every year, or every time we have an event. They're not cheap. So guess what? We don't leave them out.
Anyone else? I just have a comment. I wish the politicians were under some kind of ordinance where they couldn't throw signs all over the place, because I hate it. So
But
we'll leave it at
we would
that.
like to enjoy what y'all enjoy.
We don't enjoy it.
No permit and no regulation on sign.
Well, I think one of the reasons for the permit is when you're holding an event, it's not to permit it, it's to get information to the sheriff, and it's not you in particular, but when you're having big outdoor events, the sheriff's department needs to know what the event is and how many people are going to be there, as well as the EMS, is my understanding, while we gather that information. I don't think we charge for it, do we?
No, but it's taking up kind of employees' times, and everybody knows what we do.
I understand that, but I'm just telling you that's why they
Take
asked for that.
somebody on our behalf to come up here twice to get a permit.
We can't do that online?
I have no idea.
I don't
Yeah,
either.
we'll do it through email or fax.
Can't
Okay.
do it online.
Can't?
Cannot.
Okay. I was just
Any more questions?
throwing it out there why they get that information for law enforcement and EMS. Yes, sir.
Mr. Woody, I think when I talked to you about this, if an organization like Ruritan has 2 events, you can put them all under one permit. So they only have to do one permit, but it'll cover 2 events.
You can. You can do one permit for the Wellhead Club does a permit for their entire year, and it's probably 30 events.
So per your ordinance, because we have 2 other civic organizations.
Mr. Murray, you need to come to the microphone, please.
The challenge for us is we have 2 other civic organizations that use our events to raise money by selling lunches. One is the Boy Scouts and one is the Shawboro Ruritans. And that's an individual application for each event.
I know, but can the Coinjock Ruritan get one permit to cover theirs that will cover 2 events?
Yes.
And will it cover those other organizations?
We can certainly work with them to do that. It's not meant to be an onerous process.
Would that help?
That's the way the current process is.
I know, but that would help if you could do it all boom.
It would help if we didn't have to do it. I mean, we haven't had to do it for the last 10 years. Hadn't been a problem.
All right.
Could I say something, sir?
Yes, sir.
All of this came about and was driven by people discussing the corridor and the signage and everything. And we've been doing that, I guess, since 93. And every time we try to do something about signs, billboards, et cetera, there's always a kickback. With all of the people, the Ruritans, AL, and others, even the high school putting out their car show and stuff. It is a kickback on them. What we need to do is probably look at where we're getting the signage problem. And I know exactly where it's from. It's in conflict with the state, where it is a state ordinance, those signs can't go in. If we took that out of our county ordinance, then Stacy wouldn't have to go out and tell everybody to move their signs. And I think probably what this board needs to do is just sit down, and we have a work session coming up, and we need to add that to our work session and to our staff so that we can make changes that will facilitate those individual groups who are out there trying to have their festivals, their workshops, whatever. And I think that's something that we need to work at, and I'd like to recommend that to our manager to put that on that list as it grows bigger for us to consider during the retreat, so that we can look at that change. And next year we could probably do away with some of the aggravations for our groups. That's all I have to say, sir. Thank you.
All right. That's all I had signed up to speak.
Gentlemen, I got here late. I didn't get a chance to sign up.
Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
My name is John Snowden. I'm at 180 Maple Road in Maple. Mr. Petrey made a comment that he'd hate to place a noose around these nonprofit organizations. They sat down, they developed the ordinance they wanted, they brought it to the planning board, they brought it to you, and it was rubber stamped. They placed the noose on their own necks. It's disingenuous to try to remove the references to the state ordinance from it so that they can slide by. Our county ordinances, including the fire ordinances, the building ordinances, and the definition of a farm, are based on state definitions and state ordinances. So when you start removing particular sections that you don't like that refer to state ordinances, you weaken the whole rest of the ordinances that we have. The ordinance is less than 1 year old. It's like the county attorney said, you can't exempt one nonprofit without exempting all of them because it's the Equal Protection Clause. And the county cannot create an ordinance which is contrary to the state ordinance. And the state ordinance is the regulation of signs, General Statute 136-32. And it says that, it basically says that no signs, no person shall erect or maintain upon the highway, which includes the right-of-way, any traffic or highway sign, or signal bearing thereon any commercial or political advertising. Now, political signs are exempt under that in Section B, compliant political signs. But it does state a time and duration. I've had some people, and I'll tell you, I've complained about some signs because I see them along the right-of-way. The first offender was the Chamber of Commerce. They led the charge on rewriting the sign ordinance. And Mr. Bass, I'll name names, went out and put signs right down the right-of-way. In the permit, it says that the sign shall not be in the right-of-way and the sign shall not be in the sight triangles. If you signed the permit, that indicates that you read it. The Arts Council did the same thing. The Animal Lovers Assistance League was actually kind of cognizant after 2 times of somebody putting them out. But I will say this, after the last Bark in the Park event, I noted, didn't get a chance to call Stacy, but I noted at the corner of Camellia Drive and Currituck Highway, a sign that sat out there for a month. And it's kind of funny because I came through Moyock and I got right behind the Sykes, and evidently they just picked it up because they're coming back. I drive to Norfolk every day. I've got a little camera on my dash and I take pictures. I would suggest that these groups, instead of trying to get an exemption to our ordinance that they created, is that they go to the state level, because there is an exemption in the state statutes, 136-144, I believe, 140.7 definitions. And under that, directional signs can be put out. And there are 9 exemptions, which includes plays, concerts, fairs, antiques, gift, souvenir shops, agricultural products. I mean, that covers my exemption. I can have a sign on my farm that's right out there by the road. The key here is you're not talking about putting signs in one place. You're talking about spreading signs all up and down the corridor. And I will give Mr. Carter and Mr. Murray props. Those signs are gone. But you've got other groups, and I'll name one. The Rural Farm Days Festival had a sign at the corner of Miss Gilbert's subdivision for 2 or 3 months after that. Just sat out there hanging in the breeze. This ordinance was established to promote responsibility of these groups to go out and pick their signs up. And I was up here before you when that was, because I was asking for a sign bond. I was asking for a map of where they put the signs. I was asking for more responsibility in the ordinance. And you've had violations of the ordinance. Can't blame me because I'm the one calling. Other people, I get emails from people, thank you for doing that. I'm the one, I'll take the heat from it. I'm a participator in one of their events. So me getting up here and speaking against being able to put signs right outside the road hurts me just as much. But it's about fair and equal treatment. The businesses in this county can't put their signs along the side of the road, although we have some that like to do it all the time. Mr. Woody can attest to that. I mean, there was signage all through Moyock. The reason signs can't be placed in the right-of-way is they obstruct the view. When the mowers come through, if the signs haven't been picked up, the mowers have to mow around them. There's some signs in Moyock right now for a subdivision that have been out there for 6 months. They put stakes. These guys are just ingenious. They put stakes out and they take their signs up during the week when inspections and enforcement's out, but they put them up on the weekend, Friday night. So this is about fair and equal treatment, not only in the nonprofits, but among the whole community. because I can't go put my signs all up and down the road for my stuff. Now, I have no problem with more than the 60 and 40 signs if they're on private property. Private property is on the outside of the utility poles. The utility poles typically mark the right of way. Mr. Woody, am I correct? If they're inside the utility poles, they're in the right of way. If they're on private property, if Mr. Carter comes to me and says, Mr. Snowden, can we put a sign in your field? I rent 3 fields there. I would allow them to do that, but let me tell you, if I'm a private property owner and they leave their sign there for a month after, which I'm not saying they would, but if somebody does that, then I'm not going to want to put a sign out. So there's nobody to police that on the right of ways. So I'm asking you tonight to deny the request to exempt them and go back and look at the rules. And don't try to be funny and wiggle your way around the state statute. The state statute's there for a reason. And all of our other county statutes are based upon the state statutes.
Thank you. That's the last. Is there anyone else? I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the board for a motion.
Can we make a motion to continue it indefinitely?
Well,
We're not going to resolve it tonight, but I mean, like Commissioner Martin said,
the amendment is for an exemption. Are you going to continue the discussion of an exemption?
No.
Or are you going to continue the discussion of the special event sign ordinance?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we deny the request for the exemption and look into it further for statistics and to come up with a better plan of action, a work session.
That's the concern.
Yes.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We will. So, Ben, if we're going to start having this discussion again, now that it's been in motion for a year, you need to get comments from the Ruritans, the Arts Council, the different ones about what they see as the issues for us to address.
I'll do that.
So that we don't come in asking what the issues are. You've got the issues ready to present when we do this. Okay?
I would suggest also get with Mr. Snowden and ask him what he was talking about as far as the state exemptions were or whatever. I mean, that sounded interesting to me. I don't know just what it entails.
Or Craig probably tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the same thing, that you have to get a permit, you have to get a permit from the state.
I don't think that's what he said, but I didn't.
There's no permit required. This is the statute.
You get an exemption? Okay.
We've motioned, we've moved, we're going to the next item. New business, amendment to personnel policy. Mr. Scanlon.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we had briefly talked at one of your previous meetings about the impact the Affordable Care Act would have on our personnel policy, and I'm bringing forth tonight a request for an amendment to our personnel policy, specifically Article 7, Section 701, insurance benefits, and you have that in your agenda package. Under the Affordable Care Act, they have redefined the definition of a full-time employee to anybody who works 30 hours or more, and as the employer, we'll be required to extend health benefits to them. Our personnel policy is currently written, is not consistent with that language. So in your package tonight, you have a suggested amendment to Section 701 where we strike reference to all regular full-time employees, and we insert the language, an employee appointed in a permanently established position who regularly scheduled to work 30 or more hours per week would qualify for insurance benefits to make us consistent with the requirements of the Affordable Care Act. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Scanlon? Hearing none.
Do we need a motion to make that?
Motion
okay.
to amend
I make a
the
motion to accept that amendment to the personnel policy according to the Affordable Care Act. So we're in compliance.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gilbert.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Martin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Board appointments, appointment to Tourism Board. I believe that's you, Mr. Idlet.
Jay Bender.
Jay Bender. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe that was the only appointment, correct?
That is correct.
Tourism.
That is correct.
And then appointment to Planning Board, I also believe that is Mr. Idlet as well.
This is Jane Overstreet.
Jane Overstreet, okay. She lives
She lives in...
Outer Banks or not?
Yeah, she lives over on Outer... This is an Outer Banks appointment.
Okay. Jane Overstreet, all,
This is in... Lynn Wilson is resigning a year before her term is up, so this is to replace Lynn Wilson.
to finish out the
to
year.
finish
then-
out Lynn
okay.
Wilson's term.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Motion
Move for
for approval.
Have a motion for approval. Second.
We have a discussion.
Yeah, I was going to say, any discussion?
Are there more than one item, is there more than one item on the, as far as budget amendments?
There is.
Can we get a breakdown of it, just?
I mean, in your agenda package is a breakdown. I mean,
Okay.
there's more than eight.
My
I think it's like
computer's
3
not
of them,
going.
but they're in your agenda package.
Well, this is not going up, so can you just, you don't have to read.
Off the top of my head, I don't know what they are until I reference them.
I can tell you. The first one is the sheriff adjusts highway safety program from $89,750 to actual award of $33,400 for radar equipment. That's the first one. And the second one is social services. Previously, the physicians at Kids First was grant funded and medical services were provided at no charge. Kids First is in the process of recruiting for the medical services. In the meantime, we have a medical provider in place so that forensic medical can be arranged and completed timely. There was nothing budgeted for this till they didn't learn till the end of the year services. They have a provider willing to do this and do forensic exams and testify in court. It's a $6,000 amendment moving from miscellaneous revenue to professional services. And then the next budget amendment is mainland water transfer of funds due to unanticipated repairs needed for the mainland water communication equipment in the total of $15,595.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And
Motion to approve.
we already had a
Oh, okay,
motion. and
that's right, second, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right, and Commissioners' report. Mr. McCord.
The parade Saturday, 9 o'clock. It's gotten bigger every year. Recognize Johnny Wheeler from the high school. He received Coach of the Year for the conference. And also their season ended Friday night when they lost to a really good Washington team. It's the farthest they've been in 20-some years. So they ended up 11-3. I'm not going to name all the seniors that were on the team, but there was a good group of kids. And I personally am going to hate that I don't have a game to go to this Friday night. So it's been my life the last few weeks. But that's pretty much it. Just he did a great job with those kids. And teachers are, and I can relate because I have a sister that's been teaching for 20 years. They're low paid. I feel within today's times of juveniles are probably not treated as well. And, this guy gets a lot of respect from those kids. So good job to him is pretty much all I wanted to say.
All right, Mr. Griggs.
Nothing tonight, other than I would second Kevin's acclamation for Currituck County High School football team.
They're a lot more fun to watch when we're winning. Kind of hurts when we're not winning. Mr. Martin?
Go Knights, and great year for you, and hope all of us have a very Merry Christmas, and remember the girls and boys out there going in harm's way, and and to my fellow commissioners, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Mr. Idlet?
Nothing.
Mr. Petrey?
We talked briefly in our work session. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Reginald Saunders. He's our new DOT supervisor as far as maintenance goes. for the people that live in Moyock, if you'll notice right in front of Moyock Baptist Church, the cleanup. And what I found about Mr. Saunders is you're able to give him a call. Can you help me solve a problem? Let me look into it. And he went out there and did it with one phone call. And he's done a couple of other things in Grandy. He's done some things. The people that deliver mail have commented how he's gone out of his way to accommodate, to clean their route up. So I'd like to thank Mr. Reginald Saunders with DOT for doing Moyock and the other projects around. And I'd like to also remind everyone that it's Christmas and there are a lot of people less fortunate. Merry Christmas.
Ms. Gilbert?
I just want to let the Ruritans know that I will be there and pay my $3 Saturday and possibly Sunday too to shop at the local vendors that will be at the Silver Bells because I enjoy those shows. And to all the activities that are going on Saturday, I know we have a recognition of the Master Gardeners on Friday night, so there's lots of activities going on this weekend. I want to wish each and everybody a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year, and I just look for, celebrating the reason for this season. So God bless everybody.
Thank you, and I guess it'll be obvious to everyone we're not having a second meeting in December.
It wasn't obvious to me.
Okay.
I got some remarks.
You were the only one, Vance.
As is tradition. Go ahead, if you have remarks.
Go ahead, I was just going, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Okay.
I was waiting till our next meeting to do all that.
I second what Vance
I
said,
hope
too.
everyone has a blessed Christmas holiday and a prosperous, happy New Year. So.
I do want to, in the spirit of Christmas and time of thinking about others, I do want to talk about a letter I received, or actually the board received, from a Matthew R. Lewis, a colonel in the U.S. Army. And I'm going to read it briefly. It says, "My name is Colonel Matt Lewis, and I'm currently the commander of the Combat Aviation Brigade 1st Infantry Division. Our unit is based out of Fort Riley, Kansas. Over 2,000 of our brigade soldiers are currently deployed to Afghanistan, where they are providing Army aviation support to the International Security Assistance Force missions across southern and western Afghanistan. I am writing to request your support in reaching out to a soldier from your hometown or local area, and perhaps to others from nearby communities in your county or state. We have created an interface called Hometown Heroes, which is a map-based website which shows the hometowns of each of our proud soldiers, and which allows the general public to gain contact with them to provide messages of support." They're putting that website up as we speak. The website is located at, it's too much to read on here. I assume we can put that website link on the homepage for people to get, Mr. Scanlon?
Yeah.
Okay. Our goal is to build direct linkages and relationships between members of the Army and all the communities where these great soldiers come from across America. As you are likely aware, soldiers draw their strength and resilience from the support of their family, their loved ones, and their communities. We are hopeful that this innovation will create a simple way for members of your community to reach out and recognize the many contributions of soldiers from your community who are proudly serving this great nation. I would greatly appreciate your assistance and energy in sharing this website with your local community organizations, churches, and other community-based organizations so they can reach out and support people who are truly their very own. As an example, First Lieutenant Lydia Ann Nilsson is currently serving as a signal officer in the brigade, and I am certain she would love to hear from you and other members of Currituck County. First Lieutenant Nilsson is very proud to call Currituck County her home and would love to get messages of support from your great community. Please feel free to contact me at Matthew. We'll put the email address up as well if you have questions. So on our website, we're going to have the website address as well as the email address if you have questions. But we all know someone who is either serving directly or has served or has a family member that's serving. As you can see right up there, someone from Currituck. I believe that's her, correct?
That is Lydia. She is a Currituck County High School graduate.
Yes, and we have people that are serving or have served in Afghanistan, Iraq, and various other places throughout this world that we're inhabiting. So I just want to put this up and make sure everybody goes to the county website, get the information, reach out to some of these soldiers, let them know how much you love them and appreciate them, and they're away from home, and they just would love to hear from different ones. So that's what I have for Christmas this year as my wish for everybody in the county to do. And I do wish that everyone has a merry and blessed Christmas, and do remember why we celebrate Christmas. It's not the day after Thanksgiving Black Friday sale. So with that, Mr. Scanlon, do you have anything?
I just was going to remind the board, you've already done that historically, the board with the holiday seasons does not have a second meeting in December, and the majority of the board has said that they would like to continue that, so your next meeting will actually be after the first of the year.
Yes, and one last thing that we dare not forget, Mr. Petrey.
I'm going to let you, I'm afraid I'll lose it. We need to remember Gwen Keene, our former clerk that's retired, going through a medical issue right now. We just need to keep her and her family in thoughts and prayers.
That is correct. Her husband is going through a medical issue and certainly needs all of our thoughts and prayers.
And you don't have to wait till Sunday to start praying for him. God listens 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Amen.
So thank you. With that, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, you can stay.